Hi, educator friends. Thank you so much for joining me so that I can share another strategy with you to help you create more balance in your life. Today's strategy is called time blocking. Raise your hand if you can relate to this photo. It's the end of the school day and you are feeling absolutely wiped. You feel like you've spent every minute of your time dedicated to doing some sort of work, whether it was with your students, with your colleagues, students' families, paperwork, planning, meetings, and the list goes on. Every single moment felt spent. And so you're feeling exhausted, and yet you have a to do list that is a mile high. If you can relate to this, then please keep listening because time blocking is going to help you. So, what is time blocking? Ultimately, it's a time management strategy that aligns your values and priorities to your daily tasks and work. I'm going to share with you 3 major steps to time blocking so that you can begin implementing when you leave this video today. I'm also going to be sharing examples with you from a teacher and an administrator. All right, so step 1, reflect upon and identify your priorities. You can either hit pause and reflect on this right now, jot your notes down in a journal or wherever you keep your notes, or listen to the whole video and then go through and do your reflecting afterward. So, first question, this relates to your work priorities. Why did you choose this job? What are the 1 to 2 most important parts of your job? And what part of your job fulfills you? In terms of your personal priorities, 3 questions you can ask yourself. What do you need the most to feel well in this moment? Who are the people that matter the most to you? And when do you feel the most joy? So here's an example from a teacher. Why this person chose their job and what fulfills them. To share love and compassion with children. The most important part of this person's job is to create a safe space for students and giving students skills to feel confident. What this person needs personally, more sleep and movement to feel well. This person's family is most important to them, and they feel most joy when they're present with their family. As an administrator, what fulfills this person is making an impact on students by supporting teachers. And so the single most important part of this person's job is to support and develop teachers. Personally, what they need is some quiet time and more rest to feel well. Their partner and family are the most important people to them, and they feel the most joy when they are feeling inspirational. So, after doing some deep reflecting and truly being honest with yourself, there's no wrong answer. Next, you want to create blocks of time that are in alignment with your priorities. So, let's think about our teacher example. They had said that creating a safe space is one of the most important parts of their job. And so this person wants to make sure in their calendar they set aside time to brainstorm and come up with meaningful touch points. They had also said that a really important part of their job is giving the students skills to feel confident. And as we broke that down, because that could be a lot of things, right? To this person, what it meant was looking at their students' evidence of learning. So ultimately, making sure they're being caught up on their grades and not necessarily the letter or the percent grade or the numerical grade. Really thinking about the goals of each lesson and where the students are at. And in addition to that, emotionally. So, really like knowing their student and where they are with their growth. In terms of the personal life, this person said they wanted more sleep, movement, and being with their family. So we would expect to see blocks of time in their calendar that included those things. As far as the principal, the administrator, that person had said in order to support and develop teachers, they want to make sure they're attending some planning sessions, being present in the classrooms and not just for formal observations, but just being there to really understand their teachers and the learning experiences they're giving their students. and then to be able to provide meaningful feedback to the teachers. Those were the most important things in their job that they identified. In terms of their personal life, what they need to feel well, being alone, being outside, and then because their family and partner were the most important people to them, we wanted to make sure that we saw a time block that includes those things. All right, so here's what it looks like. Here is just a Google Calendar. And this was actually working with the teacher after one session. She had made some changes, and then I'm going to show you some things that we included after doing some reflecting. So she had some blocks of time. Purple was ultimately planning, blue was teaching, and then any sort of that salmon color was personal, and green was a required meeting. Yellow was family time. All right, so you can see she arrived at school and she was setting up for her classes first thing in the morning. She has some teaching blocks in there, 1 hour planning block in the middle of the day, lunch, which was actually a change from when we first started meeting. She was using lunch to get things done, emails, other meetings, etc. And she had said to herself, I had said, try to at least have lunch, even if it's just part of that time, to give yourself some time during the day. So we started small and she was doing that. She left the afternoon open, even though it was available for planning. She stopped blocking it because she found that she was being pulled in lots of directions. There's a faculty meeting that she knew about every Thursday, and her absolute boundary was to leave before 5 o'clock to go pick up her children. So here's how we flipped it, including those time blocks that were really important to her. First, you'll notice in her personal life that lunch changed to lunch and walk, because if you remember, movement was really important to this person. She didn't need an hour to eat, and she wasn't necessarily taking the whole hour and might even use some of that hour to get some work done. But even if it was just getting outside or getting through the hallways, making sure that she walked for at least 5 minutes of that time, she wanted to put that in her calendar to make sure that that movement was happening. She also decided that she could wake up 2 times a week a little bit earlier to get some yoga, stretching, or some other movement done. And so she added that to her calendar. And even though we typically look at a Monday through Friday, she was really committed to a fitness class on the Saturday morning. So you'll see that there as well. Here was a big flip after talking to her. When she said that one of the most important things to her was analyzing her evidence of student learning, normally she was doing that at the end of the day where she had the least amount of energy left. Most of us, even if you're not a morning person, we're most productive in the morning. It's when we have the least amount of decision-making fatigue. We're at our most fresh selves. And so instead of setting up her classroom in the morning, she was going to arrive to school with coffee in hand and do her grading at that point. That way, it's a priority to her. She knows that it's going to get done. Then most of the day looks the same. You'll notice we didn't get rid of setting up for classes. Notice that that's happening at the end of the day because normally that doesn't require as much brain power, where we might be making copies or getting out materials, setting up the physical space of the classroom. But what's hard to see in this visual is that she also added the meaningful touch points there. So to make sure that she's remembering that while she's setting up her classes and getting ready for the next day, that she's also thinking about some meaningful touch points she could be making with certain students the next day and being really intentional about that. And then even though that time was getting sucked up by other things, we added the planning block in there so that if needed, she can move it, but it's a reminder that that was intended to be planning time. After pick up the kids, you'll notice that she blocked out family time. She decided no work, electronics away from 6 to 9 p.m. She's being fully present with her family. And so that's one flip, one way that a teacher started adding more balance in her life. Here's an administrator example. And trust me, this person didn't have this much white in their calendar. I had asked this individual to remove all the things that weren't blocked. If you would have seen the calendar, it was filled with random things here and there. And the problem with that is we noticed that that person was doing task switching on a regular basis. And so jumping between tasks, we know now kills productivity and really makes us feel more stressed than we need to be. This is why time blocking is really helpful. It helps you focus on the things that are most important and just that one task at a time. Each extra task or context you switch between eats up 20 to 80% of your overall productivity. And so, this is where it's incredibly important to use time blocking because there's still the same amount of hours in the day, but your productivity is going to be more productive. All right. So this is what this person's calendar looked like to start. Their personal, you'll see, is in salmon. So they were getting to work at 6:45, doing whatever. There are some mandatory meetings in there, and then they had a meeting with a family. These are the things that were coming up on a regular basis. Everything else was filled with, the calendar was full of just random tasks in between meetings, calls, emails throughout the day, paperwork, not just not really organized in terms of their time. And here's what we changed it to. I know it looks like a lot, but it is prioritized according to their time blocks. So you'll notice that the arrive to work time is extended. So we're going to talk personal first. This person had said that they needed more alone time in order to feel well and energized. And so that is their time behind closed doors to meditate, to get ready for the day, do whatever they need to do to prepare themselves. That was their quiet time. They also added lunch and outdoors. That was not something that that person was doing for themselves. And outdoor time was another thing that that person had said really makes them feel well. So we added it during the day. Again, they don't have to be outside that full hour. Even if they just go outside for a minute of fresh air, that makes a huge difference. And then we also added a boundary at the end of the day. So this person's going to leave work at 5 p.m. no matter what, so that they have time for their partner and their family, which is very important to them. In terms of blocks of time for this administrator, you'll notice that the blue is what was added. So blue was supporting and developing their teachers. Greeting faculty and students might seem like a small thing, but putting it on the calendar and making sure that it happened to get to know students and faculty as people and how the school is running in the morning was really important to this person. They also included classroom visits in there, and you'll see one planning session, but typically those planning sessions happen during different weeks of the month. So there's probably going to be more of those added throughout a week. This is just one particular week. Some meetings that are in there that can't move, weekly meeting with the boss, an admin meeting, and then their faculty meeting. Purple is their planning. If you are an administrator, you need to give yourself 60 to 120 minutes, so 1 to 2 hours of big picture planning. And it's recommended that you do that during the beginning of the week. Again, no distractions, just focusing on big picture, thinking about your vision, programming, and getting that work done when you're most fresh and before holding that sacred so that you have that time and that you're not just in the weeds all the time. So we added that there. This person knows that they are running a faculty meeting every Thursday. And so we added a block for them to plan what that looks like and to make sure that they get an agenda out to their staff ahead of time. Then you'll notice some administravia things in there. We know that there's emails and importance of returning calls and other paperwork. That is recommended to do 30 minutes twice a day if possible. And I'll explain to you why some of that is moved around. Before getting into all of this, this is just one example, right? And you can see that they considered their time blocks and they added the blocks to their calendars. So you might be thinking to yourself, but I can't stick to my calendar. That would be nice, but that's not how it works. So what we want to make sure, number 3, is hold the blocks, but be flexible. So for example, let's say that a parent calls and they need to meet at a certain time. So we move the meeting with the parent, but notice I did not get rid of classroom visits. I just found another time in the day to do it. I want to think about the times in my day that I want that are more flexible than others. Ultimately, classroom visits can be tricky, so you don't want to move that if possible. But if you do, it's okay. You might just have to visit different teachers. But lunch is flexible. Who says that I have to eat at noon, right? So I might consider moving my lunch blocks. So be thinking about what's more flexible than others. It's not that your calendar can't move, but the blocks of time are held sacred. Ultimately, when you're time blocking, you're always thinking to yourself, what do I value and what are my top priorities? You want to get off that hamster wheel of feeling like you're working so hard, but you're not really accomplishing anything. Your to do list seems to just keep getting longer instead of shorter. Time blocking is going to help you. If you have questions, please leave them in the comments. I can't wait to hear how this changes your life for you in creating more balance. If you're interested in hearing more tips and tools, please follow me. I look forward to connecting with you.